Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony. I'm chair of the Committee on Finance, and I'm calling to order a meeting on Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 at 7:28. It's a meeting on the rise. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Anthony,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor,
Here.
Councilor Grace,
Here.
Councilor Anderson,
Here.
Councilor Sanchez,
Here.
Vice President absent, 0
Thank you. And I'd just like to thank very much. We have Etty Shaw from the City Solicitor's Office with us this evening. We have Councilor Oscar Vargas, who's joined our committee meeting tonight. We also have Aaron Easter Gardner, our policy director, and of course we have our wonderful clerks, Lauren Gutierrez and Donna Flavius. So much. And so with that, I would like to have a motion to waive the readings of number 1 through 4. So motion was made by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor Graves. All in favor? All opposed. And so this evening we have with us, we have Superintendent Wendy Nelson from the Department of Parks, and I see her Deputy Director Brian Burns is also here. And of course we have our fabulous finance team. So it would all come to the table. We'll swear everyone in.
Yes, I have to spell Melendez, office for mayor.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I'm so sorry I didn't recognize you. Please, is there enough chairs for everyone? So please come up. We'll swear you all in and we'll get started.
Please raise your right hand. You swear on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And please state your names for the record.
Brian Burns, Deputy Superintendent of Parks.
Crystal Melendez, manager of fiscal operations for parks. Crystal Lindbergh, deputy finance director and budget officer.
Lawrence Francini, Chief Financial Officer.
Sarah Solaria, finance director.
Thank you. Okay. I don't who would like to start.
So, Madam Chair, as always, thank you for the opportunity to present this evening, and we're continuing to follow the same format. The finance team will introduce the documents by providing summaries. Director Silveria will do that, and then should there be any questions for the finance overview, we'll answer them. And then the superintendent, deputy superintendent, and their team is here to answer any questions, both operational and finance. So with that,
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, before I begin, would you like me to read through all of the divisions and then turn it over to you Parks to give their overview and answer questions, or would you prefer to pause after each division?
Well, I think if you can, as briefly as possible, I think we can see the revenue expenditure salaries. I suppose it would, how would you like to, superintendent, would you like us to pause at the end of every section to deal with the questions, or would you rather the finance team finish? We're fine with whatever way you would like to do it, or used to doing it. Okay, well then why don't we go right ahead and do it section by section.
Okay. So beginning with neighborhood park services, this is not a revenue generating department. Moving on to expenditures, total salaries in fiscal 25 are proposed at $4,250,889, an increase of $154,821 over the 24 budget. There are no new positions requested. The increase is just for the cost of living and step increases. Total benefits for fiscal 25 are proposed at $2,526,317, a decrease of $178,814 from the 24 budget. Total services for fiscal 24-25 are proposed at $226,900. This is a decrease of $28,800 from the 24 budget. And this decrease is due to the reallocation of several service line items that have shifted to supply related items. And so moving on to supplies, the fiscal 25 proposed budget is $719,300, an increase of $38,800 from the 24 budget. And that again is due to the reallocation of several service line items from this service budget. And there's no capital budget in this division.
I think I have been happy with it because just, I figured
There's not a lot of changes in this
there is a lot
department,
of
so.
changes, so let's go right.
Okay, so moving on to the forestry division, there's no revenue generated in this division. Moving on to expenditures, salaries in fiscal 25 are proposed at $949,991, an increase of $11,584. Again, there's no new positions. That is solely due to COLAs and COLAs and step increases. Total benefits in fiscal 25 are proposed at $594,488, a decrease of $156,964 from the 24 budget. Total services in fiscal 25 are proposed at $140,250, consistent with the 24 budget. Supplies are budgeted at $10,856, which is also consistent with the 24 budget, and there's no capital in this division. Moving on to zoological services, this is not a revenue generating department. And moving on to expenditures, total salaries for fiscal 25 are proposed at $2,021,922, an increase of $15,226 over the 24 budget. Total benefits are proposed at $1,290,170, a decrease of $123,677 from the 24 budget. And total services for fiscal 25 are proposed at $49,870. This is a decrease of $50,130 from the 24 budget. And that change is primarily due to the expiration of the city's agreement with the Zoological Society. And there's an item that will have to be fixed for final budget. We budgeted the alternative work week that should be up in the salary section in postage. So that's just a reallocation that we'll need to do. Moving on to botanical. This is not a revenue generating department. Total salaries are budgeted at $415,300, an increase of $8,273. Total benefits in 25 are proposed at $257,179, a decrease of $38,315 from the 24 budget. And there are no services, supplies, or capital in this division. Moving on to the Museum of Natural History, this is not a revenue generating department. Total salaries in 25 are proposed at $366,852, an increase of $11,211. Total benefits for fiscal 25 are proposed at $184,762, a decrease of $243,661 from the 24 budget. Total services in 25 are proposed at $2,500, an increase of $1,500 over the 24 budget. And that is due to an increase in dues and subscriptions supported by trend. Supplies in 25 are proposed at $19,610, consistent with the 24 budget, and there's no capital in this division. The next division is Superintendent of Parks. This is not a revenue generating department. Total salaries in fiscal 25 are proposed at $1,099,996, an increase of $169,101 over the 24 budget. There is one organizational change requested, and that is to fund a confidential executive assistant at $63,110, and the defunding of a program supervisor to $63,110, and that zero effect to the budget. Total benefits for fiscal 25 are proposed at $522,272, a decrease of $88,918 from the 24 budget. Total services for fiscal 25 are proposed at $179,500, an increase of $15,000 over the 24 budget, and this increase is due to increasing insurance costs related to the Gateway Center. Total services, total supplies for fiscal 25 are proposed at $17,188, consistent with the 24 budget. And the last division is the North Burial Ground. Total revenue in fiscal 25 is proposed at $340,000, which is consistent with the fiscal 24 budget. Total salaries in fiscal 25 are proposed at $444,065, an increase of $21,949. And there are no service, supplies, or capital expenses in this division. And so, Madam Chair, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Directors Nielsen and Burns to give a brief overview.
Thank you. Superintendent, would you like to make a presentation?
Sure, absolutely. We are just thrilled to be here tonight and present our budget. I know there are very minor changes in this. We've had 2 years to really work out the kinks and to really hone this budget in a way that is really to the benefit of our department and the benefit of the city. And you know, we've had a great year. We're managing 187 capital projects right now. And we think this is the year that the city of Providence is going to be known for its parks business, because so many things that have been in the works are now coming to fruition. Not only that, we've been able to expand meal services and programs and really look at our operations in some ways that have had some pretty meaningful and significant changes. And I think we're really good with that, Brian.
Yeah, we're happy with the project we've done. We're also happy with the improvements to our work order system and the way our teams run. It's better than we've had. We couldn't be happier.
Just at one anecdote, we were down at playground safety inspector training for 3 days in South Valley, and we went with 10 of our colleagues. 6 of them were our crews and foremen, and the questions that they asked, it was just so incredibly remarkable. You have to pass an exam at the end of this, and they were saying, we don't care if we pass the exam, we just learned so much being here, and I think that really exemplifies sort of where our department is right now, that it is so well structured, that we have this incredible chain of command and folks who feel empowered and are getting the training, the skills to do what they need to do to make the city look great. So not only are we doing the capital improvements, but we're working on, you know, as we have said this for years, on developing the workforce to actually be able to take care of those and to maintain those parks, and we have the skills to do that. So, we're gonna keep working on it.
Yes, Councilor
I'm
Taylor.
gonna praise you guys, as I always do every year, because for 6 years, I put all my money into parks. I first came on, actually Councilman Iglio told me, said, spend your money in parks, because it's the best investment you can get as a councilman, and I agree with that. I said, people ask me what's the good thing about being a councilman, and for me, it's not all the politics that happens here in City Hall, but for me, it's to drive by like Joe Williams Field, see all the kids playing on the thing. Drive by a basketball at night and see all the kids playing on the basketball court. Gonna be the new soccer thing that I'm putting over in West End, so I want to thank you a million times over for all the work that you do for me and my ward, because I see the benefits, the families see the benefits, the kids see the benefits, and I just want to say, put that on the record and say thank you.
Thank you.
But I do have one question. I know trucks that I know Larry can, I'm gonna ask Larry to chime in on this if he can. Because I know that in Ward 8, we don't mind if you don't.
No, please.
Okay. So in Ward 8, I know you guys do the plowing and, you know, I see the trucks all the time. And I know they look pretty sad, some of those trucks. So if you had to say, how many trucks do you have? And then how many do you think that need to be replaced? And then I'm gonna ask, like, can I put Larry on the spot? Can I do that? Because he's gonna talk about the master lease, and I was glad to hear this news, but go ahead.
So, we have 79 vehicles. Some are in pretty decent shape, about 23 of them, which is about 28% of our fleet. Probably will not pass inspection. 6 have already not passed inspection, 17 are in great risk of not passing inspection. So that's the status of our fleet right now.
So 23 total.
We have 79 vehicles total, 23 will not pass inspections in the next few months.
So I'm gonna pass this on to Larry to talk a bit about the master
Yes.
lease. And it's good news, I think, but if you could break it out, how you broke it out with me, Larry, I'd be on the spot.
So, Mr. Leader and members of the committee, as of yesterday, Finance Department submitted a award, recommendation of award for a master lease in the amount of $20 million. They went to the Board of Contract and Supply. By the nature of that award, it was referred to the council, which will then be referred to this committee, I'm sure. And aligning with that, with the clerk's docket deadline on Friday will be the companion master lease ordinance, which will arrive in time, I presume, for next Thursday's meeting, so that at that meeting, both the master lease ordinance and the recommendation of award to the master lease company will arrive at the same time in the council docket, both of which should be referred to council and the committee. It's our expectation that the financing mechanism, along with the legal apparatus, no pun intended, but the legal mechanism of that should line up to complete, hopefully before the start of the fiscal year. And the reason why it's 20 million, when we first started this process, we had identified nearly $10 million in capital asset needs, what we call rolling equipment. Subsequently, based on information that had been shared, and I'm going to say for the record, 4 years ago, at this very table, a similar process occurred. We were looking to do a $15 million master lease, but there were concerns that were exercised by the fire union representatives that said we need new equipment. And we amended that lease in that moment to include an additional $5 million for fire safety equipment, with the understanding, and I believe the commitment that said, when we can, we will revisit, and we will ideally look at fire apparatus and public safety equipment, including police. So we sent out addendums to the RFP to increase the size of the original $10 million master lease. So that would be $10 million for general government vehicles only, and $10 million for public safety vehicles. And while they're not meant to be interspersed, and they should not be, they were meant for exclusivity to be $10 million as master lease equipment for parks, public works, and general government. And the additional 10 million has been identified specifically for fire apparatus and police vehicles and police equipment and fire equipment. So that you'll hear that in further detail as we come before this committee. But we work with the departments, from the finance team, directors Severian and Deputy Director Lindbergh, work with the departments all through the budget preparation season to identify master lease requests. And I believe in sincerity that we have identified the needs of every department, in particular, the very large departments with multi-divisions, including parks and public works and public property and planning and the various other miscellaneous equipment. So you will see all that information as it comes before you. I'm probably not at liberty to say that much more because it has not yet been approved. It's not even under consideration yet. It needs to be introduced to the council. But the first step was yesterday at the Board of Contract and Supply meeting. And I believe that's the process of today.
Follow my.
Yes, go ahead.
So I just want to say thank you for that, hopefully, because when I heard about the master lease, I've been around a little bit. And it always seemed like, and I'm a guy fire, but it always seemed like police and fire would get everything. And then whatever, if it's 20 million, I'm just throwing this out there. 15 million go police to fire, and then 5 million have to be split up between parks and public works. So I'm glad, and I want to thank Larry and the team, the finance team, for actually splitting it up even. So parks and public works, and what he said, general gets 10 million, and then the other gets 10 million. That's correct.
And may I say, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Leader. So while the appetite could be greater everywhere, it's really done by the diligence of what can the city afford in terms of debt service. And the credibility belongs to the finance directors, because they were able to determine through the budget process the ability to say, yes, 10 million, as it always was considered, for general government purposes. And then the imminent needs, and I state that because, first of all, you'll hear again in committee, the imminent needs of ordering all equipment, but particularly on the fire apparatus. You can't order today and pick up tomorrow. There is a long lead time. The intricacies of this lease financing and the provisions you'll hear about have been so well structured by the finance team that we need to be cognizant of that, but you'll learn more about that in committee when we talk about the details of the master lease. And the reason why we're taking on the $20 million capacity today, even though that equipment cannot be delivered, perhaps 24 months or later, the need to lock in and pledge financing in order for them to begin that process. And I think we did a good job of that.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing the details. Thank you. Questions? Yes, Councilor Engelbach.
Thank you, Chairman. Is it okay if it's you?
Yes, please go through your list. I'm sure the superintendent would be happy to answer.
Thank you, Wendy. As a first, I want to thank you and echo everything Jim said for Taylor said about, how Haven Park is. You guys do an amazing job. The work that you do is so important in the city. And you guys are both, or your whole team, you're all magicians and you turn like pennies into like crazy projects that benefit the whole city. And it's really just so impressive. And I also really like money in the parks. Particularly also just as a extra high five, I was talking with a neighbor, a constituent this morning who's lived in the city his whole life. And he had a really great interaction with Sam and Forestbury, that like some of the best like customer service he's ever had with the city in his entire life. And he just had like a wonderful conversation about this tree that was, anyway, he just had a wonderful situation. And it was just a really nice note to get. So kudos, I was looking forward to. I had a few questions. One is also just another thing to highlight that, this is obviously the tax revenue, but I believe parks, you guys bring in a good deal of grant money and other revenue from hosting events. So just want to also shout out that, like, I know it says, not revenue generating, but you guys do so much and bring in other sorts of funding. So I just wanted to like say that out loud to my colleagues. So it's not like they bring in no revenue, look at the budget. It's like, there's so much happening. So I wanted to corroborate that. A few quick things. One was maybe just logistically between parks and the police. Does police fund pay any like rent to the parks for the space they use in Roger Williams Park for the police forces? They do not. Okay. Just a really minor thing on page 126 in the FTE count. It says administrative assistant to the superintendent. I think it's a 0 line. But I'm pretty sure you just filled that, right? It's a 0 FTEs. It was this switcheroo. That's the switcheroo. So now it's under like confidential. Okay, so it's just after. Okay. Oh, yep. Okay, that was it. Okay. A few minor things. Oh, and you mentioned this, Director Silveria, and I wasn't sure what this was. A few of the budgets have the alternative work week, and I just wasn't sure what alternative work week meant. And what the budget for it is.
So the most of our alt work week is within the zoo for our zookeepers and our lead zookeepers. Some will work Monday, Tuesday, Monday through Friday. Some have Monday, Friday off and work the weekends. So they obtain an alternate pay for that, to have that. And there's one person in the botanical center who has Monday off and works on Saturdays.
Oh, so they get like a pay differential for working kind of
It's part of the agreement with local 1033 that staff that are working on an alternate work week schedule receive an additional $1.20 per hour for that schedule. So that's all that is.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
That. And then under forestry, 53401, there's 139,000 for private contractors. What are the private contractors?
That is gonna be equipment that is way too expensive for us to actually ever have, like, to be able to grapple, 48-inch caliber logs or things like that, or if we need a crane to come in, but also during really big storms and things like that, we have to bring in additional services. But it's also for the young tree maintenance, it's for the emerald dashboards, for all of these kind of things. Block pruning is a big piece of it as well. Yeah, those are also match funds with the grants that we receive.
Oh, great.
So, yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And Sharp.
Okay. And then one other, and this is such a small amount, I feel so inactive, but what is maintenance service? 52911.
Under forestry,
Yeah.
I believe that's their baby tree system, the tree keeper.
Okay.
So that they can keep their lots.
Oh, okay, cool. Then I just have one more. For the museum of natural history, a lot of the like office supplies, housekeeping, paint, curatorial, it was mostly actually not curatorial, but a number of them had been zeroed out. Is there other funding for that? Like, where does funding for the Museum of Natural History come from? Is now from general revenue? Yeah, I should know this. I'm really embarrassed that I don't, so I'm sorry.
So for the normal day-to-day operations and the maintenance and what, we try to have a lot of those expenses come out of, neighborhood park services, which is our largest budget.
Oh.
And anything that's in museum or botanical, those little expense accounts that you see are specific for that building, that division.
Okay.
But the museum also has their revolving side,
Yeah, okay, perfect.
So anything curatorial would be.
Would be under that.
Yeah, but what we've been trying to encourage is something we call centralized purchasing, where we are trying to, instead of every division buying pens.
Yeah,
we
you're
have
doing it
pens in
all.
one central location where people then shop at it, so we can get bulk buying, we can keep track of inventory. And we're saving time and money by not sending people out to purchase things.
Yeah.
So it's been really good.
And I just really appreciate how much you guys are such a well-oiled machine. I know you and Brian have been leading the charge for so long and you've got it down and you do such an amazing job and it hits all of our boards. So even down to like making sure you're purchasing all the pens and housekeeping in a organized way like that, it's very, yay, I'm so pleased. And then that's my last question. Oh, and I just had a note that I wanted to say again on the record that Annalisa and the North Fairground is a delight and a treasure, and we should keep her always. The programming she's doing at the North Fairground is so inclusive, and I hear a lot from the neighborhood about how they didn't even realize they could go in North Fairground, and now in the last couple of years, they're like, oh, I go to these events, she does these walks, there's a book club, there's like all this stuff that happens there in a respectful and appropriate way for an active borough ground, but people feel really included, and all the neighborhood groups try and get, they try and get glimpses of the coyotes, and she spoke so great about encouraging that, and also distributing information about how you should not approach Charlie the Coyote, and just a very lovely service she provides for the community.
We had 6 born today. 6 baby coyotes.
yes.
6 were born today?
Told us this morning.
You should text me, I'm so mad, I take my own. That's my say. The mom looks super pregnant.
Yeah, she's just every single one of our staff, is incredible, and our director who really passionately and expertly, lead each one of those divisions, but work together as a team. I mean, the Museum of Natural History and the North Borough Ground get together and do moonlight history walks in the Borough Ground or Roger Williams Park. You're talking about the history of the place, but also what's going on in the sky and the environment at the same time. If anybody wants a cheap date night, this is it. You go there at 8:30 at night and, enjoy a talk. It's really amazing. I think, North Borough Ground in particular was really the birthplace of Providence. City Hall was, it was where prison, there was a bar, there was all of that there on that ground, and where our history started. And Lisa has really worked very hard and will continue to do so to make this a real center of the community and resource. We're thrilled with that.
Is that it? Yeah, I didn't have a lot of questions, so serious love, just love.
All right, now for Santa.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Yeah, definitely just want to echo all the kudos. I have nothing but great things to say about the Parks Department and your willingness to work with us and definitely provide a lot of positive inputs and definitely will also echo the kudos on the North Burial Ground. I went out there a couple of times and Lisa is amazing person. I went to the end of those event and it was amazing. And we had a conversation, something about, is North Burial Ground the only like city owned like active cemetery where folks can lay their loved ones to rest, or was that?
There's also Locust Grove, which is on Elmwood Ave, but not to be confused with the one on closer to the intersection of Elmwood and Broad Street. So Locust Grove, we did a major, I think the pictures actually.
Yeah, it's in
a major upgrade there last year to make that an asset for the community as well. So did a lot of urban field work, we have a lot of community that's their neighborhood park, and then so they enjoy that. We upgraded all the lighting and the entrance. It was really quite pretty. Now we spend a lot of care. So there are some people that is under our management. There are some people who are still buried there, but they bought their tickets, so to speak, a while ago. But we're not actively selling graves there versus North Burial Ground. We do quite a few sales, and we also, bury between 200 to 330 people every year. And if you do get a chance to read the annual report, there's a breakdown of all the divisions and the, what they do and some of the events and some of the capital improvements, and things like that, that happens. It's a
But
great breakfast.
It what?
It's a great breakfast.
Her program is called sweatshirt.
Yes, they do.
I know.
Yeah.
the last thing I want to say, because we're definitely like talking a lot of time, is their Instagram page is I think one of the better Instagram pages out of all of ours. Is they're super active and super engaging. Last thing I'm gonna be on. Onto forestry. This is something that I think a lot of counselors have interacted with over the last couple of years, and I will also say Sam has been nothing but fantastic to work with. But I know there's been some staffing concerns. Are those still there, or where are we at in terms of staffing for forestry?
Yeah, that's a great question. We think we're on an upswing now, that we've actually been posting, we've been having applications coming through. There was a while where that wasn't really happening because there isn't, there's not a lot of job development around that, but we also developed an apprenticeship program as an alternative too, so that our workers could sort of learn their way into forestry and have that experience. It's probably the most dangerous division that we have. And so it's really important that we get the right people in there. I will say that Sam Dagenhart is that person. So this is the first time in our forestry history where we actually focused on somebody who is a real practitioner versus more of a theoretician, so to speak. And so Sam knows nuts to bolts his industry, how to train our folks, how to recruit folks, and how to support them in that work. And that's what he's been doing. And I think that he's been able to, when he parlays that knowledge in public, it's pretty apparent that he knows his stuff. So while other foresters have been wonderful, they've had a lot of the experience with community engagement and things like that. Sam is a true practitioner in forestry. He's held every position that you could in terms of being a tree trimmer all the way up. And he's one of those kids who grew up playing, climbing trees and decided to make that his passion. So we're really, really thrilled to have Sam and have him, be presenting so much professional. And also, he told us this morning that our folks had to do that he had done before. There was it's great that he was able to do these assessments and then determine where the skills gaps are and be able to do that. So I don't know if you want to add anything more.
So there are currently 4 vacancies in the tree trimmer position. It has been posted. The posting is down and he's holding interviews this week.
Awesome.
There was some internal candidates within NPS as well as some outside that had experience with tree trimming and worked for other companies so far.
And on topic of vacancies, how are the other divisions of your department looking at some?
The only other one that has a couple of vacancies is NPS, which out of 10 laborers, we have 3 that are on comp. We are waiting for some updates from Rhonda's team to see where they're at with their comeback, and then we'll post for those. I think we're in full swing, but we're also getting ready to bring on the summer temp hires for the laborers and the seniors that work in the park in the summer.
Mhm.
So we should be okay.
Where are those, what budget line are those paid out of salaries as well?
For the temper?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're within 702's division under the temporary line item.
Thank you. And really my last question, is for finance, and it's just kind of a clarity learning question on my end. It seems like most of the divisions had an increase in salaries, which is good. We should keep up with cost of living. But most of the benefits, had a decrease. And, I kind of just glanced through the lines real quick right now, and it seems like most of them are due to the transfers of the active medical funds. Can you guys just like explain like exactly what that is and how we can determine to decrease it and whatnot?
Yeah, certainly. So And that's one of the things I'm planning on reconciling again for final budget. As I mentioned earlier, we do now have new software that's allocating all of our staff costs, so I can do a per position budget. One of the hiccups I encountered when I was balancing the budget was allocating the costs across all of the active employee pool. And so in order to get the budget in and on time, I ensured that the total medical budget is what the actuary determined we need to contribute. So in total, if we add up all of the divisions, you'll see that there is an increase in the medical budget. However, how it's been allocated across divisions will get cleaned up by final budget, because to your point, yes, the divisions are seeing increases. The bulk of the increase is in the public safety department. So again, at the end of the year or at the end of the budget cycle, all of the fringe will be reallocated in trued up, but the software did allocate in kind of an unconventional way that I'd like to clarify and clean up for final budget. But I do want to rest assured that if you look towards the back of your budget book, there is a medical addendum and summary that lists the total fringe for each division and department, and so the total medical budget can be seen on those pages.
Can you explain what that is, that line item? Like what,
Transfer to active.
yeah,
So the city is self-insured for our medical insurance, which means that instead of Blue Cross or an insurance provider coming to the city and saying your family plan is going to cost this and your single plan is going to cost that, and we pay per employee over to Blue Cross, we instead work with an actuary to determine what they think we are going to need to cover all of the claims. So again, instead of us paying your the cost of your health coverage directly to Blue Cross, the city estimates what that cost will be on a per employee basis, and in total for the entire city's pool of employees, we budget and transfer that into a self-insurance medical fund. And as claims are incurred throughout the year, those claims are charged to that fund directly. So it's almost an accounting exercise. It is somewhat unique to a large city like us. Essentially what we're doing is building in to our budget the cost of providing those plans without having to give an insurance broker or provider like a cut of the action, so to speak. Like all of the claims are paid by the city, all of the costs are borne by the city. We do have some provisions in place to mitigate risk on our behalf, and we have reserves in those funds to help mitigate risk. But we do receive a required contribution from our actuaries annually, and we are required to put that contribution into those medical funds to preserve that balance and ensure that we have adequate funding to cover our claims.
so just can I
Yes,
continue this question? So I guess like the insurance line that is taken out of like people's paycheck goes directly to the medical fund?
That's exactly what happens, yes. So when employees pay their co-share every bi-weekly payroll or weekly, mostly bi-weekly, the city's controller's office takes the value of all of those contributions and transfers it over that insurance fund. At the same time, they're transferring what the employer or city's contribution is to that same thing. So we are constantly moving funds out of the city's general fund into the self-insurance fund to preserve that and ensure we have enough funding available to cover our claims.
And then my last question on this topic, have we always been self-insured as a city?
Yes, I don't know prior to, I mean, I would say at least the past 20 years. Yeah.
If I could, in the world of insurance, given that we're a large entity, you either accept the risk, as we do, self-insured, or you transfer the risk, which really means buy premium. If we were to buy premium in any given budget year, minimum 10 to 15% greater than what we're paying. So if our budget is 117 million, it would be 135 million. Why do we accept the risk? Working with an outside actuary, as Crystal pointed out, we can tell by trend, by high cost claims, and by other attributes of the workforce and the statistical review of that workforce, what the appropriate amount, all things considered, in any given year should be for budget. Sometimes, in some years, not regularly, but sometimes there can be a multitude of high cost claims that were not accounted for. But the makeup of that overall for the self-insured funds has been highly beneficial to the city's budget. We could not operate if we were buying premium. it would be highly expensive, so we insure ourselves.
Is there, what other city, what would it be like the other second major, biggest city in Rhode Island that is self-insured?
If they're not self-insured, they acquire coverage through what's known as the interlocal trust. For smaller cities and towns that can't afford to buy premium, they combine their resources and they buy for the trust. We would not be eligible for that because of the size of our budget and the size of our medical expense, but they're probably, I don't know specifically, but I would think the city of Warwick and Cranston might be self-insured clients.
I promise this is the last question on this topic. What is, where do we, like, out of what budget line item do we pay the outside actuaries?
It's paid out of the self-insured medical fund directly.
Oh, okay.
So every month we receive bills from our actuary for managing and administering our plan. We also receive an administration fee from Blue Cross for providing, you know, with the card everyone gets to hand into the doctor. And those are paid out of the self-insured medical fund where the city's general fund contribution is transferred into. So the city pays the expense on a per employee basis. We shift it over to the medical fund, and then all costs associated with providing medical coverage are charged directly to that fund.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Are you finished, Councilor Sanchez?
Yeah, I think Grant's done over here now.
All right, then, Councilor Graves.
Going to finance too, and I do have to give kudos out to the Parks Department too. Even though I was like, ooh, John O'Brien, I keep forgetting that's my pocket. Yeah, River Ave. We just had our Easter egg hunt there, not that long ago, and they love it. The only thing is, the parents were like, you gotta put something there to hide the eggs, because we could all see the eggs. So maybe we have to build something else in. But my questions are, I was looking at some of these, all the different departments, and I was looking at the, you know, combined thing, and it says the salaries and the benefits, and the ones that have services, it says services. A lot of the time, the services are, you know, kind of small. But then I noticed in some of these other departments, they seem to be extremely high. So my question is, I guess, what are the services? Some of them kind of self-explanatory. I'm assuming, because legal is one of the biggest ones, but I'm assuming that has to do with the hours, of you going out and speaking to other people, bringing people in, you know. What are your services? What is the service?
So I think one thing that may be helpful for you, Councilwoman, is to look at the descriptions of the line items that make up services. So for example, and this is another department, to go to that. They go to the neighborhood park services, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, page one.
yeah, I don't have that book.
Oh,
you
that's okay. We can do it.
Yeah. That help me. And I will look at it. No, I do have the book.
Oh, okay.
I don't have it with
It's in
me.
this packet.
Yeah.
Oh, they added it in there?
Is the top thing I should?
No,
The services are broken down. Oh, and it's under, it's, you got it under, yeah.
Oh, over there. Okay. Okay, so I was still looking at it, and I'm saying, why is it still seems extremely high to me? Especially when you look at the amount of people that are working. Water department has the biggest one, so I can just about, I can understand it, because they have the biggest department, but some of these only have so many people, and the services just seem extremely high.
So one of our largest service expenses throughout the entire city budget is private contractors. So
Okay.
you see that in some departments that are heavily like program based. They're not necessarily needing to buy a bunch of paper and pencils and tools and parts that the parks department may need. They may be using an outside private contractor to provide a service to the community. So I do think that that's probably might be an easier question to ask on like a department by department basis, because
Okay.
in general, each department is really functioning in a different capacity for the city and doing very different things. I know, to your point, the law department has a very high service line item because again, their supplies they're buying are things like stationery and pencils and.
I'm not talking about supplies, because you gotta build it up from supplies and
Yeah.
services.
Yeah, of course.
Madam Councilman, may
Mhm.
I, comment? I saw you earlier holding up what's the actual ordinances that are submitted. So for just a little bit of information of history, the city's ordinance are required to be submitted in a standardized format year over year over year.
Mhm.
And they're required to be submitted in 5 primary categories: salaries, benefits, services, supplies, and capital.
Mhm.
Salaries and benefits speak for themselves, and they capture all the group of individual charges within those categories. What could be in services are exactly what we mentioned. If it's the law department, the vast majority of that could be outside counsel that's necessary to employ for various particular reasons. In the IT department, it may be vendors that are unique to the IT department. So I would say the vast majority are outside services, but it could also include miscellaneous items that we try very hard to identify every dollar by a unique expenditure, name and code, so that they're not summarized by miscellaneous or what have you, but within each department, there is a line, there is an account grouping known as salaries, benefits, services, supplies, and capital. And we're happy to address any one of them, including the ones that are before you this evening on Parks Department, and go through them. We have the detail that would support that, but I did notice that you were holding that in your hand, so I'm.
Well, I got some of these things on
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry, I will go over it again, because I was like, wait a minute, I can understand this department, but what about this? And the tech department is like quadruple.
Yeah.
What the salaries, the benefits and supplies are together. And I was wondering what, I'm thinking this is more along the lines of communication of computers and stuff. Why is that?
Their biggest line item is called information technology that rolls up to a service line item, and that's where all of our software costs are located.
Okay.
So for example, our ERP system is a very large one of our expenditures that is reported as a service and not a supply.
Okay. I'm sorry. No. Okay. I want to know how many people work in the diversity, cause it has, salary 58.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Is this?
No, it's not Fox, but I just wanted to question why we had finance.
Okay, I think finance is gonna be here for every single department.
Okay.
So if there is any way
I'll
that your
send
questions are excellent because we need to know them, but I mean, if we can divide them amongst the departments. We'll have finance here every night.
That is correct. No, okay,
You don't have to worry about losing them because we can't, they'll be here every night. So you can divide those out. If you wouldn't mind, making sure that we have it within the department, that would be very helpful.
well, there's really not too much to say, because I'm like them, I think Fox one.
And I too, will finish by, I'm sorry, Councilor Vargas, your questions.
Yes, I do mind.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
please.
I want to say, because we deal with Parks Department, right?
We are dealing with perks tonight.
I say thank you for all the help that you're doing and all the Parks Department. So far, we working to have a better part, but I have an idea, like, if we can work with the signage much better, because we have different communities, and some communities, they don't understand the little sign that you have, this big, that you need like a magnifier to read it, what's going on. So we can make it bigger for the people to read and because, and especially in my area, we have a lot of problems, because they drinking, smoking, doing whatever they want, and we don't have a bigger sign saying, you're not allowed to do this. That's one. And second, to come up with an idea how we can work with the people who got dogs. Because I know parts of them say, oh, dogs is not allowed, but we don't have enough cops to put a cop there watching the guy to go out with the dog and do whatever they have to do. So we had to create an idea to give them back for them to pick up the doo-doo or do something else, or hire another police officer just to watch the dog. And so it's any way that Parks Department people can enforce the Parks Department rules, like something that we can create inside the Parks Department, like anything. We need help in that area, and that's what we need to work on it. Because we know we're working very hard, and we want to have the park open to the public, but the public brings everything. Bring the dog, they won't even bring the pay. And then what are we gonna do about it? Like, how are we going to help? And we need help.
Superintendent, I think you could probably answer this, because you handled this issue all the way across the city.
Yeah, so, well, there are two things. Parks does not have an enforcement arm, so we build nice parks and we maintain them and we make them as attractive as they can and it's useful so that as many people as possible are using them and they mean as much to people so that it's ownership. We have over 50 friends groups that work with us on parks, which are the sort of the eyes and the ears from the neighborhood. We try to around real parks and help us out, call things in when they need to do. I think two of the questions you're asking, those would really have to do with enforcement. That we just do not have, we don't have the skills, it's not within our repertoire to do that. That would fall under police or animal control or something like that. The Board of Park Commissioners sets the rules for parks and they have decreed that there are no dogs in Providence parks unless they are a designated dog park. They also approve and make dog parks if there's one to be had, if people want to say, I want to transform this, that would be something that would be taken up before the Board of Park Commissioners. Did I answer that question? And then with regard to the signage, does anyone in this room speed on the highway? I do, right? There are signs, but I know that I can get away with it, because we'll be saying public meeting, but because
I speed too.
But you're not being reckless about it, but I think it's the same kind of thing. The signs are there. And police can refer to them if that's the issue, but having the sign necessarily bigger isn't going to make the people who are doing these things listen to what's on that sign anymore. It's not a matter of knowing, because people generally know the laws. You can't drink in public, you can't you can't smoke in public parks, you can't do a lot of these things. And so these are things that transcend city parks. These are things that are part of the city, state, federal law that are being prohibited in parks. So I think it's a balancing act between the climate. I think one of the things that we're really keen on in parks is telling people what they can do in parks so that they feel welcome and they feel ownership of that park. Please come enjoy it. Put your trash away, do those kinds of things. But Counselor, as we have said before, we're happy to work on it with you. I know that in your neighborhood in particular, we put a lot of signs up and a lot of them are gone.
And just to clarify, the park rangers are in the police department budget? Okay, so we will be able to speak to that issue when the police department budget is discussed.
All right, because, can I say something?
Yes.
Because it's not fair for us, we have a federal park by the state house and then in the back.
Yeah.
See this? Yeah, you are out there. See how the sign says, US government property, no firearms, drugs, or alcohol, and the little thing for the bags for the dogs are there. So how come federal they can do it and we have a big issue in our parks, like to put something for the public?
So they allow dogs on their property, the city of Providence.
No, they don't allow those because there is a they have the leash, but anyway, the issue is, like you said, well, how many people speed, but you see the big sign, 25 miles per hour, right? And you see it 50, 75. And the issue is that no matter what we do, people will go to the park with them there. We have to create something for them to pick it up, because it's embarrassing. If you wanna come with me tomorrow to Providence Street Park, you will step on any little thing that they have. You know, I'm sorry about that. Thank you very much for your help, anyway.
Councilwoman, can I make a comment?
Yes, Councilor Smith, yes.
So just comparing us to the federal government, I don't think is, responsible. Currently, our federal government is $35 trillion in debt, and we are not that much in debt, right?
We have a balance budget.
But going off of the signage, though, because I think it's a good point, is that being replaced in the future or something, like signage at parks? I thought I heard something about that, like the green and orange was.
We would like to redesign it. It's getting old. It's been almost 9 years now that we've had that very similar signage. And so we would like to rebrand and get new signage out in general. So it's something that, you know, we have an in-house graphic designer now, which is my confidential assistant, has that skill. So that's really great. So it's something that we're working on, and we bring before the Board of Park Commissioners for their approval.
Okay. Councilor Graves.
Well, piggybacking off of that, a lot of the councils, starting to put up signage for their wards. Maybe we need to know, you know, what yours is, so it won't all be clashing on too gaudy. I hate for yours to be pink and gold, and mine is ours, and red is kind of tacky.
So we're just in the conceptual stage, just literally the charge to our design staff was, when you're out and about and you're having a drink or you have a placemat, start sketching out what you think this might look like. I mean, that's how basic we are right now. But then the whole entire process is that, you know, we would vet that internally. We would bring it before the Board of Parks, which is represented. You have Councilwoman Enderbois and Council Pro Tem Pichardo are on that, and they are, you know, their role there is also to communicate to councils of what is going on with the Board of Park Commissioners. So I think, you know, design, everything that we do, we always love feedback. So if you are at all interested, we'd be happy to share, but I think we're months out on even getting the napkin sketches back right now.
Okay.
Councilor Vargas.
I don't know if this would be appropriate question. There's two big projects coming up, right, Wendy, about those toilets, self compensating, yeah. Is a good thing for her to talk about, or it's?
You mean, I'm sorry, are you asking if they're using composting toilets at the parks?
I can answer that one.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, so you're referencing a partnership, proof of concept that we're doing with One Neighborhood Builders that where they were able to get some funding for community-based decision-making and for public spaces. And one of the things that through that process came up is that people wanted bathrooms in parks. So what we're doing is, and these were selected by the community and a committee we've been working on for almost a year now, that the Davis Park restrooms would be open to the public and they would have an attendant, which is the main criteria for having bathrooms open. But you know, particularly when you have children around, you want to make sure there's an attendant in the bathroom to make sure it's safe and that, you know, you have one person in at a time, that kind of thing. And then similarly, there would be at the Nugent Park, the bathrooms there will have a full-time attendant there as well. And they're working on sharing those with the sports leagues who use them in the evenings and things like that. And then at Rhino Park, it is, the idea is to try a composting toilet there. It's been a little challenging there because Rhino Park has been under the water for much of the spring and winter. And so we're still working on feasibility and some options there, but that is the goal, to try that out for a year. And there's funding to staff those through the One Neighborhood Builders program. So we're excited to try it out and see where it goes.
Yes, like you to know also.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
thank you. So I think we're all set. Anyone else have any comments or questions? I'll just thank you so much for superintending me and deputy and the whole staff, you really do a tremendous job. Our city, I think, is known for so many things. Top of my list is our park. Thank you.
And thank you for the ongoing support and the investments as well. We really, really appreciate it. And, you know, it hurts the city in the park. And, we have some of the kindness. So thank you.
And oh, we enter this.
Oh, yes, we're the answer the handout tonight
Exhibit 6.
as exhibit 6, never motion.
Second.
All right, motion made by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Councilor Sanchez, all in favor? All opposed, and then I'll take the motion to continue on items 1 through 4 this evening.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Engelbach, seconded by Councilor Taylor, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. We have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Graves, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed.
No, I was getting ready to, say, no, to adjourn. I was like, yeah, I
Thank you.
As always. Actually,